Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. And as promised, we have a super secret, extra special guest, Mr. Ryan Pineda, on today. How you doing, sir?
What's up, man? Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Hey, one of the things I knew I had to ask you about, because you are what I'll call a social media influencer, right? You have a impressive and growing following that's growing leaps and bounds. I just have to ask, real estate crash? We gonna have a crash next year? Because everybody's creating crash videos and getting like 100,000 views. And I just don't see it. I don't know what these people are talking about. So I thought I'd ask you, what do you think? Real estate crash this year?
I think it's good clickbait.
And yeah, exactly.
As we know, fear always drives traffic. Positive stuff doesn't really drive traffic. But no, there's not going to be a crash this year.
There's just no chance.
I'm buying up every piece of real estate I can get.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to talk about here, because again, when I talk with you, because you do this business, you're growing your portfolio. One of the things that I saw that I actually told my audience I'm doing like 60 days ago is I ain't selling it. If I don't have to sell it, I ain't selling anything. It was next year, which is obviously now this year, because I need to hide some income, man. That cost segregation, bonus depreciation, man. I don't want to cut the IRS a check, so I'm going to be holding everything I can this year. Do you feel the similar way?
Yeah, when I first started, I made all my income from flipping and wholesaling, so I didn't really have the luxury of holding some. It was like, hey, if I held them, then what am I going to do to bills?
Where's that chunk money?
Yeah. And I had to reinvest them into the next flip, right? So it was always a cash flow game of like needing that money for the next deal and to support my lifestyle and all that. But eventually I started keeping rentals along the way. And thankfully for me, I started creating other businesses that supported my lifestyle and made me more than flipping. Right. And so now it's become, the other businesses can create the active income, the lifestyle that I want. And then let me use the real estate investing engine to now write off that lifestyle with keeping rentals and cost segregations and the things you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting where I've seen you go and grow. And again, I've been stalking you for a while, knowing this interview is coming up. You're not only doing houses, which is where you cut your teeth, but you also have a fund now, right? You're actually going to bigger apartments in syndication. So talk about that change, because that's, an apartment building in a different location, not Vegas. It's kind of lots of new stuff.
Yeah. So, going into 2021, one of my buddies, Tim Bratz, he has about 5,000 units. He goes to me, I posted on Facebook or something. I was like, hey, my goal this year is to get 50 units. And he goes, Ryan, 50 units, dude.
Was that a typo?
Yeah. He's like, you mean 500, right? I was like, how am I going to buy 500 units, man? Like, at the time, I think I had like 30 units. Yeah. And I was like, dude, 50 is like more than doubling.
Yeah. And that's like one a week, dude. What the hell?
Yeah. And so he goes, no, dude, you need to start a fund. And he's like, with your social media following, you could easily do it. And I'm like, where do I start? Like, I've never done it. I don't know. And so he really helped me through the process for months. He put me with his lawyers. He put me with his team. I asked questions, really thinking about the structure. And so after a few months, I finally launched Pineda Capital. And it's for accredited investors only. And our first deal, we actually ended up doing with Tim, a 334 unit apartment complex in Warner Robins, Georgia. Oh, nice. We had to raise almost $6 million for it. The purchase on it was about $20 million. And, we're thinking that by the time this thing is stabilized, we should get a value of over 30 million when it's all said and done. So, our goal for that building is in a couple of years to refinance it, get all the investor capital out, really just do a huge burr. And then keep it with the investors. We all own it together, no money in the deal. So that would be the ideal goal. We got to go execute on it now. But that was our first one. Then we ended up locking up a 96 unit in Iowa recently. Oh, wow. And we already raised the money for that. It was a $1.6 million raise. And what's funny is after we raised the money, we had some investors reach out because they saw my video or something. And they were like, hey, we want to buy it. And
they just want to take it over. They want to buy you out.
Yeah. They're like, we want wholesale it to us. Like, don't buy it. And we could have made almost $600,000 as a wholesale fee on the building. And I'm like, no, we already raised the money. The investors committed. We're going to buy it. And, like we're talking about, back years ago, if somebody offered me a $600,000 assignment fee, dude, yeah, I'm like, guys, I love y'all, but I need that 600 grand.
Yeah, you're gonna get 3. I'm gonna get 3. We're good.
Yeah, let's chill. And now it's like, okay, we can actually not do that because for me,
it's a bigger play.
I would rather hold these long term, get all the tax benefits. And 2, if I do add that income, I mean, it's getting taxed at such a high rate.
Oh,
so it's
yeah.
like,
For
now
you?
now I'm looking at it both ways, where it's like, if I keep it, I get a huge tax write-off.
Yep.
If I flip it, then yeah, I get a chunk of change, but I pay 40% on it. So like in the end, keeping it actually like might make the same in the grand scheme of it from just the tax perspective.
Yeah, I mean, your year 1 tax savings. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really close year 1, but over the course of 5 to 7 years, you refi it out like a burr. You're gonna be in the deal pretty close to infinite return, which is pretty amazing, right? So, and is the long term focus for Pineda Capital to really hold them long, or do you have like 5-7 year outs, or what's
I mean, we're so new that. And no one knows 5 to 7 years where things are going to be. What we told our investors is like, look, our goal is to hold on to these. If we're able to burr out and nobody has money in the deal, like, what's the point of selling?
What's the point? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The only way we would sell is if we just got some stupid offer of like, man, these guys, I don't know what they're thinking, but okay, we'll sell it. Yeah. And then maybe we'll 1031 into something else, like,
even bigger. Yeah. That's the beauty of the 1031 exchanges. A lot of people have been doing the syndications for a while, right? Or bigger apartment buildings. They just keep going bigger and bigger. And the beauty of a syndication or apartments is you're not really, if you're house flipping, it's best to do it where you are. Vegas for you, right? Right. I have my team, infrastructure, contractors, systems. Multifamily is, it's a national game.
Yeah. I mean, there's only so many apartments here in Vegas, right? And like, when you buy big apartments like this 300 unit, you get economies of scale. You can go throw, a property manager on site, handyman on site, and it's not really like that big of a deal that you're not there. Now, granted, you do need people, who are there, boots on the ground. But I mean, when you look at all the big funds, they don't just go locally.
No, yeah. So the other thing I wanted to ask you about, I think it was in one of the videos I watched yesterday. You were talking about keeping basically cherry picking flips that you were going to sell. Normally you would sell, you're not going to keep. And you had a comment that I don't know anything about. And it sounds like Vegas might change their Airbnb rules this year. At least that's what I took away. At least I thought I took away. What do you think?
Yeah, Vegas has always been tough for cash flow. It's very much like Cali and these other places where you run the numbers and you're like, I'm going to either lose money on this on a monthly basis or, break even, like whatever. Yeah. And so for us, we've never like tried to buy rentals in Vegas because it was always like break even on rent or go flip it, make 30 grand. It's like, we'll flip it. Yeah. But now my perspective is changing because, I've watched it the last couple of years and it was like those properties in Vegas that didn't cash flow 3 years ago, they're killing it. I mean, like a $300,000 house in Vegas 3 years ago. Okay. It rented for like $1,800. And, back that's like, hey, it's not going to really cash flow. But today it's worth 500 grand. It rents for $3,000. And it's just like, man, the right play would have been to keep it in hindsight, right? Sure. As long as you could have weathered the 3 years of no cash flow. And I'm looking at it now and I'm trying to project into the future of like, okay, if I'm into rentals for the long haul, what is going to happen? And it's like, I think they're going to keep printing money. I think rates are going to keep getting lower. And I think supply is not like, where's the supply coming from? I don't see it. And so if that's the case, it's like, okay, rents are bound to go up. Prices are bound to go up. And it just makes sense for me at this point in my life, like to start looking at that and saying, I'm going to keep these, even if maybe they don't necessarily cash flow, because I can weather the storm. I've got my other businesses and, I need the tax write-offs too by keeping them. So that's kind of like my perspective. And then also too, like you mentioned with the Airbnbs, Vegas is in the midst of changing their laws and I think like June. Okay. And, I think every city's going to go through this with Airbnb. There's going to be the next few years. People are trying to figure out how they want to do it. And for cities, to me anyways, it makes no sense not to allow it. You're going to get more taxes and people want to do it. And so at the end of the day, I think they're fighting a battle that they're going to lose anyway. It's kind of like Uber, the taxis try to fight forever. It's like, dude, you ain't going to stop it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you'll delay it best case. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I think is happening with Airbnb. And it'll take a few years, but if in fact Vegas allows Airbnb at like scale, then I definitely see myself buying way more here and running that type of business.
Yeah. So for folks that don't know Vegas, I mean, so let's assume Airbnb is a thumbs up. If the strip is kind of right here, are you going to be within, is your like buy box 10 or 15 minutes driving of the strip, or where do you want to be?
What's interesting about Vegas is everything is close. It's not like Cali where it's like hours away to go from San Diego to LA or something like that. And even in LA, you might spend an hour to go.
Dude, I've been in traffic for 2.5 hours going from LA to LA. It's nuts.
Yeah. So Vegas is not like that. You could literally get anywhere in Vegas in like 30 minutes.
Okay.
Traffic's not bad. Everything, we got like over 2 million people, I think, but it's very small with how like condensed it is.
Okay.
So I honestly don't think it really matters where you're at. People just don't care. And case in point, we have Henderson, which is east side, southeast part of Vegas. It's a different city, but they've allowed Airbnbs. And those Airbnbs go gangbusters. They're not anywhere close to the strip. They're like 20 minutes, 25 minutes to the strip, but people love it.
Okay. Yeah. And then when I was watching your video, you were walking through a house, and if Monopoly board is kind of the colors on the board are the categories of homes, you were in a pretty nice home, at least in that one video. You were maybe not Boardwalk and Park Place, but you were whatever the yellow ones up here or green or whatever they are. Is that kind of where you want to play, like class A stuff?
Yeah. So I'm thinking about this long term. I flipped anything and everything. I flipped homes in the hood. I flipped homes, in luxury. And as I've done both, I've realized, okay, these ones in the hood, I don't really want to keep them long term. They're great flips, but obviously the renter quality is worse, but also the houses are worse. Like they're just they're old and beat up, and like I don't know. I just don't want them long term.
No, that's fine.
On the flip side, I would rather hold on to these more luxurious ones. Better tenants. If you do Airbnb, you're going to get more.
Yeah.
And I just think that long term they're going to appreciate better, and I would rather just deal with that. So that's kind of my strategy.
Is a pool a requirement? You're going to have a pool in all these, or you're like no pools?
I don't care, dude. Honestly, I'm just and this is the other part of it too, is on the tax side, if I need to buy so much real estate, it's way easier to buy one luxury one than 3 entry-level ones. So that's kind of what I'm thinking too.
Yeah. Okay. How about, have you ever looked at new construction? I don't really know how much new construction is going on. Have you ever looked at, because there's a lot of deep pockets now doing build for rent or whatever. They're just buying them brand new.
Yeah. So a couple of things with development I'm looking at. One is I've been developing my own house. So I bought a 2-acre piece of land. Yeah. And I'm literally trying to build the best house in Las Vegas. Like that's not an exaggeration.
No, I saw your wife and your wife do some, having her on the video is very helpful. I like that. That was nice.
Yeah. So we're, going through that development process. I've learned a lot the last year, and I'm like, okay, this isn't, once again, a limiting belief. I'm like, this is not what I thought it was. It's not as hard as people think. It's not as unattainable. It's not like this, old boys club that only they can develop. Right. So one of my students actually is a developer in Bel Air, right? High-end developments. And my architect quit on my development. And so he took it over.
Oh, wow.
And he actually did the renderings last week for the first time. I haven't revealed him yet.
Okay.
I'll show you off air, but they're freaking crazy.
Wow.
And it's unlike anything anyone's ever seen in Las Vegas. So I'm really excited about that. But him and I have talked a lot about doing luxury development. Like, why can't we develop cul-de-sacs with, say, $3-4 million homes?
Right.
And the reason being, that's kind of like the niche that nobody is filling. here in Las Vegas.
Well, I don't think that's filled anywhere. I mean, that would be too small for the big guys, meaning unit wise, and having to deploy capital in $3-4 million. That's bigger than most people are comfortable doing one of those, right? You've been in the game a while. I'll do one a year. That's their thing. There's very few people that can, carry it like you could. Let's just do a whole cul-de-sac. We'll do a 2.5 acre here, a 3 acre there. And, I don't know, whatever the other one is.
Yeah. I wish we had that much land in Vegas, but we don't. But so like we would do like, we'd buy a 2 acre parcel. We would go throw 4 homes on it, half acre each. And, we try to build $4 million homes in it, like just this ultra luxurious community. And the margins look good if we do it right. And so we've explored that. Nice. So we're looking at that. And, you mentioned build for rent. That would be like more on the flip side. We're not, maybe we'd keep them. I don't know. But
knowing you'd flip 3 and keep 1 because
that would be tight, keep all the profits and, keep 1. But, I seen the build for rent. It's funny. I was at, what's that convention called? It's not IMN. There's I can't remember what it's called, but every year they do it. And I remember going to it in 2018 and they were just starting to talk about build for rent. Like it was becoming really big. And I'm like, build for rent? Why would people do this? Yeah. And then sure enough, you look 3-4 years later, I'm like, that's smart.
Yeah. Well, I think it was Pulte Homes. I think they were talking about it in 18. They did it in 19. They made 50% better margins and sold it one time versus dealing with individual owners. Why wouldn't you do that? Sell it faster, no headaches, 50% better margins.
And the hedge funds essentially who are buying them get, an apartment, but it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes, we'll see what happens in 2021, but the highest adjusted risk return for the hedge funds was single family homes, 6.5%. That was the stats from 2021. So we'll see what happens in 2022. So closing this out, how do you do all this stuff? Did you have does Vegas have this little time warp where Ryan gets 30 hours in a day and everybody else gets 24? Because you're doing so many things.
Yeah, I actually have been asked this so many times that I created the Wealthy Way, which we'll talk about later. But if you go to wealthyway.com, I created a free course which essentially talks about time management and prioritizing and delegating and, for even a normal person, because normal people need to do these things too. It's not like,
absolutely.
I got businesses. And so, it makes sense for me, but I'm just a normal employee. So, I don't have the luxury. It's like, no, dude, all these time management principles we talk about apply to anybody. And if you're trying to get out of the rat race or quit your job or start a career in real estate, you better be good at time management in order to do it.
Amen. No, I want to second that. One of the biggest things, for me, building a portfolio that retired financially free is I busted my ass from, 8 to 7, 5 days a week, built a portfolio from 8 to 10 at night. You have to do good time management. I call it your buy box, 20 minutes a day. You just got to keep going. It's really hard the first 3 or 4 years. Then you build momentum, you get escape velocity, and you reap returns. I just wish people realized I believe everybody, you can disagree with this as you want. I believe everybody can be financially free in 10 years if they're willing to commit to 10 years of work. What do you think about that statement?
I think you could lower it. I think you could say 5 years. Honestly, I've said this before. I'm like, you could become a millionaire in 5 years. I truly believe anybody can do it. And there's multiple ways to go about it. And I just gave someone an example. I'm like, the last 4 years I've been buying Airbnbs in Big Bear, California.
Yep.
And, it's not like I'm going crazy out there. I'm buying 1 or 2 a year. I've just been slowly buying these properties. And just by those properties last 4 years, it's increased my net worth by $2 million. It's like I became a multimillionaire in 4 years from just
that one little thing.
That simple. Yeah. And anyone could have did it. I ain't out in Big Bear looking for all these deals all the time. It was very,
you're not door knocking and driving for dollars.
No, it's not a priority for me. And that's not even counting the cash flow.
Right.
We've made over $1 million in Airbnb rents in the last couple of years. Wow. So
it's amazing.
Yeah.
So again, we're going to get into this, The Wealthy Way, thewealthyway.com. Go check it out. But we're going to do that in episode number 3. Ryan, how do you want people to find you? Is it ryanpineda.com?
ryanpineda.com. Easiest way to find out about everything we got going on.
Very cool, man. Thanks again.
Yep.